Hey fellow backyard warriors, Nick here. I've gotten a lot of response from my last Atlatl video, so I figured I'd make another Atlatl for you guys. So, I got some requests for an Atlatl with a dart rest. Now, I've made some with dart rests, and I personally like, holding the dart when I shoot, but, that's just me. So, today we're going to be making an Atlatl with a dart rest. And because it would be boring if I just made the same Atlatl the last time but added a dart rest, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're actually going to be building it's called a female or a socket Atlatl, which means that instead of having a spur that sits into the dart or having a forked end or a loop that holds a knocked dart, this Atlatl is actually going to have a socket which will actually hold the dart in place. So the dart will actually go into the socket, and that's what will hold the dart to the Atlatl. So what you're going to need to start is a 1/2 inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe, and I cut this one to 30 inches long. So that's about 27 inches, which is a little bit shorter than my draw, my length of draw, which is around there. And that's going to be the main body of the Atlatl. So generally, whatever your draw length is, somewhere around there, you kind of want to play with the length as you make Atlatls and you use them and you get used to them. But generally about your draw length for the main body, and then I'm adding 3 inches, if you can see here, 3 inches on the handle side to become the dart rest. And then on this side, an inch in, I've made this strange mark thing, and this is going to become the opening for the socket plus the channel that will allow the dart to slide into the socket a little cleaner. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my saw. You've seen me use the saw, so I'm just going to cut this and show you guys what it looks like when it's done. So I'm just going to cut into this a little deeper than marked, just to open this up and make a channel. So I'm going to go do that. I'll show you what that looks like. Here it is. You can see it's a pretty significant cutout here. You can see it's completely open all the way back here, and then I've got a little bit of this flat section here. So this whole area is about 5 inches. So an inch in and then about 5 inches. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to preserve about 5 inches of the handle. I'm going to flatten this section and make sure that when you flatten, this comes out perfectly on top, because everything kind of relies on this groove here. So I'm going to flatten this, and then I'm going to flatten this 3-inch section, not completely. I'm going to be using a taper on both. I'm going to be using the 3/4 taper. So it's going to taper this way, and it's going to taper this way. So I'm going to do that, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here we go. I've gone ahead and I've flattened this out. Now, what you want to do is once you flatten this, you can see on this side, when you've done the taper, you want to just gently flex while it's still warm. You want to flex it just to give it this slightly reflex shape here. And this is going to help, with a little more spring when you go ahead and throw with this. The Atlatl itself is actually going to flex and give a little extra push, a little extra spring. And then once you've tapered the end here, what you want to do is you want to gently curve it. So I just curved this by hand. I've done a few of these, but you could also put this around a pot. You basically want this to come up so that when you hold this, once we cut our groove in here, the dart needs to sit, if you could just visualize, it needs to sit at least a little bit above your hand. I like to keep this, as minimal as possible. just enough to clear my hand. That way, when you've got the dart in the socket here, or if you were building a spur on a spur here, you would hold the dart, or you would hold the atlatl like this, and then you would do your throw. So now what we need to do is we need to actually heat this section up, and only this section, and we're going to close this off and create the rounded bottom of our socket. Then we're going to clean this up and put a notch here. So I'll show you how to do that. So here's the future socket right here. Now you got to make sure, like I said, when you flatten, to make sure that this groove rests on top so that everything lines up. So now we're just going to heat just this section right here. So now what we need to do is cut a little bit of groove for our dart to sit. Now this is going to be done as part of the finishing. Basically what you want to do is you want to figure out where the center is. Just line up center with the socket on the other side. And I like to make my mark there, center mark, and then make it about 1/4 of an inch deep. And then I take a round file and I just file this out to make this nice little groove here. And then I'm going to round off these edges. So I'm going to do that and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so I've run into a problem. Like I said, I've done a bunch of these before, so this came out great. But I've never done a female atlatl before, and I figured I'd give it a shot. And one problem I had with it is when I finished the throw, the wind up and everything was beautiful. And then just when I would release, my follow through ends up slamming the back end of the dart into the ground. And as you can see here, just snapped the dart by slamming it into the ground. So I still got to work on this. I'll probably make a couple more and tweak them and figure out how to make them a little better. Until then, just to kind of salvage this project, because it's looking pretty good so far, I'm just going to go ahead, I marked this out, I'm going to cut this off, round this, and then I've done this type of spur a few times. I'm just going to heat this end up and curl it back to create a little spur that will hold a normal atlatl dart. So I'm going to do that and I'll show you what that looks like. Once it's ground down and cleaned off, what you do is you take your heat gun and just gently heat up the tip. Heat it up just till it'll flex. Okay, now you just fold this tip over and set it in. So you want to make sure that it's set in just high enough so that it will sit into the end of your atlatl dart. So take my broken atlatl dart, put it in here, and just press it down until it sits in the notch of the atlatl. Something I need a little. There you are. So there's our alternative spur. This one works really well. You can do it on the end of any piece of PVC. It's kind of cool. I personally like the look of the other spur just because it really looks like an atlatl, doesn't look like plastic at all. But here it is. So So now we're gonna go and throw with this a little bit. So here's our finished Atlatl. So here you can see the simple folded over spur we've got on this side, and then we've got the dart rest on this side. The way this works is you place the spur, the Atlatl, onto the spur, and then you let it rest on the rest here. So if you're walking around with this, you can use one finger to hold it so that you can walk around and it's in position. You get it ready, and when you're ready to throw, you basically let go, put your finger down. You need to keep a little bit of a slant to it, because if you just bring it forward, it's going to fall out. So get it on the spur until you're ready to throw. Hold it with your index finger, and then when you're ready to go, bring your index finger down, aim, and throw. There you go. So here it is, really simple. You could dress up the handle, you can dress this up however you like. I just cleanly sanded all of this, kind of gives it the look of some kind of over manipulated rib bone or something. But here it is, and I'll probably, if you guys are interested, I'll probably be doing more Atlatls and maybe go over some different types of Atlatl. So here we go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.